Hello, and welcome back to the What Problem Are You Solving podcast, where we believe that finding out what problem you're solving turns into what pays. We're two lean startup coaches that have a passion for quickly delivering value before you spend too much. Again, my name is John Ruark. I'm a lean startup consultant in the DC metro area. And with me I have...
Ty Smith. How are you all doing?
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Finally back after a short hiatus. But, you know, that's it. Fail early, fail often, right?
That's right. Families. Jesus.
Come on.
Only to get out of the way you can do business, right?
But we still love them.
Yep.
So last time we left off, we were talking about the innovation readiness levels and kind of a journey of maturity as you go through your innovation. So tonight we're going to start with a sermon series, as we like to call it, of stepping through each of the 9 steps of the innovation readiness level. So step 1 is all about, what do we have here? What is this? Your first pass on your business model canvas with your problem sponsor. So Ty, what's a business model canvas?
So about 2010. So almost 10 years ago, this young man named Alex Osterwalder was working on his dissertation, I think business school in Austria. And he had an opportunity to study all the people who are talking about business models, from Clay Christensen, was doing work on business models. Ruth McGrath was doing work on business models, all kinds of work on business models. And what he decided, or what he came to, was that there had to be a better way to kind of coalesce all your thinking. In other words, how do I put it all together in one way so I could see it all? Because as you all know, when you think about a business, you're always worried about where's the money, where the vendors, and where are my customers, and how am I going to put it together? And he was like, okay, is there a way to do it? Typically what we would do is to write a business plan. But there's this really famous pugilist philosopher named Mike Tyson, who said everybody has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. And because of that, what Osterwalder came on was a way to kind of bring all your ideas together, and as a living document that you wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on, that you could put all your ideas together in a way that you go, okay, my first pass on what I think my business is looks like this. And so what Osterwalder came up with was a 9-box configuration. So if you could, in your mind, draw a rectangle, and inside that rectangle, draw 2 H's. And then draw a line straight across another smaller rectangle on the bottom, and then divide that rectangle in half. And if you can imagine it, you have 9 boxes. And those 9 boxes are this. You have your customer, you have your channels, your distribution channels, you have your customer relationships, you have your offer, you have your key resources, you have your key activities, you have your key partners, you have your costs, and you have revenue. And so in your mind, if you just draw it out, that's what it kind of looks like. That's a business model, what we call canvas. What we're going to talk about today is what's really goes inside of it.
Yeah, that's what I love about this, is that it is a lean business plan, or a 1-page business plan, I like to call it. So if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. That's an Albert Einstein quote.
Bingo.
Let's walk through it then. Starting with the most important piece, your customers. You should really know what your customer segments are. And the first error we always see is, well, everybody's my customer. Are they though? Really? Are they? Because even if they truly are, like Amazon is at the point where everybody's their customer, but they had to start somewhere, right? And we do know the story of Amazon. Amazon started out as a online bookstore. So their customer segment they started with was people who are looking to buy books online. So really, when you're thinking about your customers, try to get as focused as possible first. Yes, you might want to solve everyone, but segment down of who do you want to target first. And if you don't know, pick one. So start with customer segments. What's the next thing of the business model canvas people should be concerned about?
So when you think about the customers, you're thinking about, oh my gosh, what problem are they really trying to solve? WPAYS, get it? Benny bang. So understanding they have jobs to be done. They have pains associated with that. They have things that are some of them that they're trying to solve are functional things. Some of them are emotional, some of them are social. And so the next thing that we consider is called the offer, or otherwise known as the value proposition. In other words, what are the bundle of things that you're going to put together? Services, products, anything that you could put together or somewhere in between that would help those people that John just talked about, that identified customer who has this set of problems, pains that they're just, my God, if we could only get something done, if somebody would only build that's what you're trying to offer. That is what we know as a value proposition or an offer. It's the bundle of products and services that you put together to help people solve problems.
But why don't you just start with a solution first, Ty?
Yeah, starting with the solution about that. Yeah. How often have you said, I know it, I've got it, and you run to them and say, listen, I know what your problem is. They go, yeah, I can't use that. Because see, what really only thing that matters is what people buy. And so if you start with a solution, a fully vested, full-blown, completely engineered, fully funded solution that nobody buys, you've wasted a lot of time.
So let's not do that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's not do. That's stupid. That's stupid.
So then you have to think about the next block, which is which channels are you going to deliver that solution to those customer segments? And it's interesting because you really have to consider not just, well, they're just going to go buy it from me. Well, they're going to buy it online. Are they going to, are you going to have a storefront? Are you going to offer different types of levels of service? How are you going to ensure that you are making sure that you're not spending too much on one channel? So one thing to think about when you're considering all the various channels that you're going to be delivering is can I do some sort of experimentation? And we'll talk about that in a future episode of which of these channels can I change and be more cost efficient by delivering the same value to those same customers, but maybe in a cheaper, better, faster way.
So how about you talk about Netflix, because they had to do some understanding how they're going to distribute their value proposition to their customers, and it changed over time. I know you're really familiar with that story, John.
Right. So are we talking about the DVD case, or are we talking
yeah.
right, because as we know, Netflix didn't even start out as an IT company per se. It was just all about me. You know, I really hate going to the store and paying late fees.
Right.
So what if someone could completely reinvent a brand new business model where they improve that channel? What if I don't have to go to the store and they don't have late fees? All they did was tweak that channel. It's still a DVD. It just came in the mail. That's because channel distribution.
Yeah, because they were solving one of the customers' problem, and by rethinking the distribution channel, how the value proposition of being able to watch entertainment when you wanted to watch it, you know, and going was much different than the channel that they were competing against, which was Blockbuster. Oh, and by the way, we know there is exactly one Blockbuster left,
and it's cold up there.
Yeah, very cold. And so, John, you're right. They had to rethink their distribution channel. It wasn't completely, had to go through the U.S. Post Office. So they just tweaked their channel before they even became what they call the online provider, the streamer. And so their channel was thinking in relationship to their value proposition and the customer's job to be done.
Right. So tell us now more, Ty, about customer relationships. What do we do when we consider that?
Okay, so that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Okay, so here's a question for everybody. How many of you drink coffee from 7-Eleven? Ooh, I do, because Starbucks, while a good coffee, it's expensive. But 7-Eleven does something that was really cool. They did it about 2 years ago now, is when I signed up. They said for every 7 cups of coffee that you buy, or 6, the 7th one is free. In other words, they've hooked me. They've created a relationship with me as a customer who doesn't want to pay a whole lot of money for coffee, who will keep pulling me in. They will grow me as a customer. Their relationship to me, by the way, Steve Blank, the father of this whole thing, talks about that channel, the customer relationship channel, being how do you get, keep, and grow them. And so 7-Eleven has said to me, hey, listen, if you download our app, and every time you come in, you buy your coffee from us, we will establish a customer loyalty relationship with you that you'll keep coming back. Oh, and by the way, you keep buying coffee, we'll give you one for free. Oh, and we'll give you some points And so you can get and so their customer base through the relationship known as customer loyalty, the customer loyalty programs, those little cards that we get from the stores and whatnot. And so that customer relationship box is known as how the thought is, how do we get, keep, and grow our customers? And so, John, that's all fine and good. But I'm wondering what happens on the back end. So we've talked about customer relationships. We've talked about value proposition. We've talked about distribution channel. What about the back end? I mean, I know this is your thing because you're like that, like the engineer of the two of us. Me, I don't know. I just kind of talk.
Yeah,
but you're an engineer. What about the back end?
It's not as fun. It's not as sexy because everything else is what everything we just talked about is what the customer touches.
Yes.
Now, how are you going to build the thing, the offer, the value proposition, so you can send it out to those channels, to those customers, and engage with them? So one thing you have to consider, especially, is what key resources do you need? When we say key resources, what are like the critical pieces that you need to have in order to build this good or service so that you can create the value proposition? One thing that you have to consider too that I find interesting about laying your ideas in this block is that it's not just physical infrastructure, right? It's not just the warehousing and the store and the cash registers, but it's also human and it's also intellectual property as well. So if you have some sort of secret sauce, some special way, some certifications or qualifications that other people don't have, make sure that you're documenting that, because that is a key resource that makes you unique. Because the whole goal of this is, if you can create this whole business model canvas and you're just a copy of someone else, why are people going to choose you over another competitor, right? You need to provide a unique value proposition. And the way you do that is if you capitalize on your key resources.
That makes me think about my 7-Eleven story and McDonald's. Because one of the things we know about McDonald's is that while you can, my grandfather said, look at that hamburger, so thin you can see light through it. Not necessarily the best meal, but what we know about McDonald's, the corporate, is that they are not a food company, but a real estate company.
Right.
And so for 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven is, it's coffee, but that they're probably one of their key resources is what? Land, real estate. Wherever they drop a piece of property, that for them is a key resource for executing their value proposition for somebody like me who doesn't want to spend a lot of money for coffee and wants to be able to get something for nothing and your chicks for free. Dire Straits. Thank you very much.
So tell me more about the key activities that you must do in order to provide the service.
So key activities are really super important. And so a key activity is the things that you must do, the things that your organization must participate in to have your value proposition delivered to your customer. And so, for instance, a key activity for, let's say, a football team, a professional football team, a key activity for them could be their whole scouting. Right? They have to go out to the colleges and scout the players. They have to make sure that they pick the very best ones. They have a general manager who's in charge of the scouts who go out and they look at the different football players and they rank them on the board, and they go out and they test them and they do all that before they give them that money to put that product. I hate saying that about athletes, but put that product on the field so the customers of the Washington football team, go Eagles, the Eagles, could then say, hey, we can go and win another championship. And so a key activity, for instance, for a football team is to have that. Another key activity would be to have a great marketing program.
Right.
Because if you're paying football players, I just read that they're about to pay a football player first $200 million quarterback. Right. That's a boatload of cash, right? The first $200 million quarterback, they need to be able to have the activity of creating a marketing program that would pull in that excess monies around jackets, around hats, around gloves, and what's going on in the community and advertising and all the rest of that stuff. And so those are the things, when you think about key activities, the things that you must do to execute your value proposition through some channel for somebody.
Right. But when you consider all the back end side of things that you must have, your key resources, and things you must do, your key activities, guess what? You can't do it all.
Really? Come on, John.
But my mom said I'm special.
You are. I love you, dude.
But I just can't do it all. And so the wisdom is knowing when do you have to have key partners that you're going to offload some work to at a cost because there's something in for them. But if you, by the fact of you offloading it to them, helps you make that offer much better to your customers, right? And you see this a lot in let's just look at where we are in 2019 with the variety of content distribution networks like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, right? These are all video streaming platforms. But Netflix is getting more into the in-house content creation, but most of these other distributors only have deals with Sony and BMG and Fox and ABC and CBS. So they need to rely on those key partners to create content for them because that is not a resource they have in-house or an activity they're going to do. They made a business decision to push that out. Or one thing that an example we use when we teach this stuff is that the Nespresso line made by Nestle Nestle is a food company, and yet they had to offload the production of the Keurig-like machines. They had a key partner with the manufacturer because why would they build that? They are not a machine manufacturing company. Yeah, they could probably do it, but it would take a lot of time and activities and resources to build that up. Right. Just offload it. Just get someone else to do it for you, who is more efficient, right? Look at economies of scale or optimization, right? They know how to do it better than anyone else. So why try to fight them? Why try to recreate the wheel? And by the way, you're buying down your own risk of building your value proposition.
And that's really important. Say more about buying down risk when it comes to offloading some of these economies of scale issues.
Right. I mean, geez, even some of the things that we're doing for this podcast, right? Instead of setting up our own IT and running all this, no, we're running this on, cloud streaming software, right? That's available for free. So it reduces that barrier of entry and it makes things, almost instantaneous, right? To get set up. Whereas if we had to hard code all this from scratch, I mean, geez, we'd never get off the ground.
Especially with me.
So Ty, all that stuff, when you consider the key resources, key partners, and key activities, are they free or do they come at a cost?
Everything costs. Even free costs, right? Because even with this podcast being free, in order for it to advantage, we are actually resourcing the provider of the podcast with data. They are looking for downloads and streams, which means they're going to now sell it to somebody, sell that data to somebody that they're going to help make them good decisions. And so what you want to do is to manage your costs. And so any good business, if the stuff that you build costs more than the revenue that you create, you're doing something wrong. Period. All that back end stuff is all your optimization stuff. One of the things that we believe is that traction in the customer space is better than optimization. But once you buy down the risk of traction, attracting customers, you want to manage your optimization costs. And so your key partners, economies of scale, offload somebody else who has a better economy or better machinery to be able to do that. Your activities, as well as your resources, you need to manage those back-end costs so they don't override the revenue that you hope to create from exercising all of the customers that you're going to keep and grow through your channels and with your value proposition. And so it's really super important to make sure that you are minimizing your costs as best as possible while still generating revenue, because you don't want to have a one-to-one. As a matter of fact, John, I think in Silicon Valley, I know for in kind of tongue-in-cheek with Silicon Valley, but it definitely is for Google. They want a 10x experience. So for every $1 in, you want $10 worth of value out, right?
Yep.
I had worked in at a premium entertainment organization that it was a 1 to 2 for every $1 in, we were getting $2 out in revenue and benefit. And so it's really super important.
Mm-hmm. And so you bring up a good point. Once you kind of minimize your costs, optimize your costs, now how do you maximize your revenue, right? So now we're looking at the other side of the coin.
Yes,
You
sir.
consider your customers. Are they the best customers? You're considering the channels. Is it the most cost-efficient channels? And how are they willing to pay for that? What channels are those target customers going to be paying? And that customer relationship, that get, keep, and grow, critically important for getting those customers coming back, because
Yes.
one-time purchases are okay, but I mean, I saw in my news feed today there was a smart Wi-Fi enabled electrical power box. You know, like in your house, you have with all the circuit breakers.
Yeah.
I thought that's kind of cool, but I only buy one of those like once every buy a house. So while it might be a great product, it will not get customers coming back again and again and again, because once you buy it once, it's kind of a single-use product.
Yes,
Whereas
sir.
you need, if you're trying to optimize your revenue streams, you want to keep people coming back. You want to consider how are they current paying, how do they like to pay, how much are they willing to pay, and there's a lot of really neat experiments you can run to optimize what people are willing to pay. Another example that I've told Ty about is that another podcast that I'm on, we've set up a different Patreon levels where people can support the show, you know, just through donations, and you can set it kind of like Kickstarter with different levels of donations, and even at our highest donation, over half of our paid uh, patrons are all in the highest tier. So that tells me, if you look at just like a bell curve, we've not optimized that we have priced ourselves too low, and should probably consider adding an even higher level tier.
Right.
Not because it's greed per se, right? Because that's the first question is, well, all you're doing is looking for money. Well, no, this is what the market's responding to, and we are providing that larger amount of value that they're willing to pay for. So if the market was adjusted properly, everyone would kind of be in that middle tier, and you'd kind of see it taper off on the tails. So optimizing or maximizing your revenue stream is really an art and a science. And really the best way to find out, I mean, there are lots of tools. We know that there's a program called Optimizely that you can run on a website, and it will randomly, set prices and let people reserve things, to say they're going to reserve the product at X dollars, even though you haven't made a sale yet. People can vote with their dollars per se.
Yeah.
What they would actually pay for, and or there's just rip the Band-Aid off, and there's a lot of research that says it's actually better if you have fewer customers that pay more than a lot of customers that pay less. Why? Because the cost of customer relationships goes down. If I have to manage 100 people or manage 10 people for the same revenue coming in, which would I rather do? I'd rather manage 10 higher paying customers, because it's less overhead, it's less work, it's less customer relationship management I need to do.
Well, you bring up a good point about what the mission model canvas allows us to do, kind of writ large, and that is, it is not a one-time deal. And so all the stuff you've been talking about, John, is all about dynamic relationships between the 9 boxes. By the way, if you haven't been counting, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone through 9 boxes. And again, customer relationship, customers, offer. That's what we'll talk about this later on, probably in about 4 more podcasts, about when we talk about product value proposition fit. But that's your value proposition. We call it a canvas. So we have customer, value proposition, channels, customer relationship, key resources, key activities, key partners, cost, and revenue. If you can imagine those things going together, you are talking about a very dynamic system as you're trying to build up this customer base that's willing to pay. And so it is intended to be, that's why it's one page. And oh, by the way, if you ever go online and look it up, you can see it. You'll see a bunch of sticky notes. And the sticky notes, we use this canvas in a sticky notes because it allows you to test and say, well, what if I did this? Well, what happens if that happens? What if that didn't work? By the way, you don't throw anything away. You just kind of keep on going. but it is a dynamic system on its face. It's meant to go and have for you to test. And so what John is offering up, I think, is a powerful, powerful key to this whole idea of a business model canvas, is that what if I increased the amount of my costs that it's going to, I have to charge a customer? Well, that may mean that I have to rethink my partner relationships because somebody else has to actually carry the cost. So I manage my costs, or I offload one of my activities, or I don't do an activity, or I have to manage my my channel, or that may impact my channel. And so John brings a very, very important point that this thing is dynamic.
Right. So as we're coming to a close, this is all something that you have to do to just get your thoughts out of your head, answer those 9 questions in a very simple and quick form, and get started. Go, right?
Absolutely.
Stop wasting time writing business plans and con ops and user flow diagrams, when it's better to just get out the door, make sure everyone knows what your business looks like, your business model, and go. And so if you really want to keep it simple, if you haven't been following along with those 9 blocks, really, then you need to just answer 3 simple questions. Do you have desirability? Do you have feasibility? And do you have viability? That is, how do you know people want it? How do you know if you can build it? And how do you know if you have a viable business model that can, where the revenue is greater than the costs? Plain and simple.
Any of them out of a line, you don't have a business. You just doing stuff.
Right.
Stop doing stuff.
Stop moving. Stop moving.
Yes, hands up, hands up.
Right, which is, we say that a lot about, well, just stop, because it's actually more efficient if you're kind of thinking through the, Tai Chi Ono lean movement of the lean product development out of Toyota in the 60s. If you think about how your product moves through your business model, through your value, up out to your customer, if something's out of line, it's actually more efficient to stop moving than to try to keep pushing things that are broken, because quality is going to go down, customer satisfaction is going to go down, you're going to have longer delays of time. And so it's better to just stop moving,
yes,
fix it at the source, and then go. And so a famous example is that when they first put in this lean production method in Toyota, that they empowered every employee on the floor assembling the cars, that if they found a problem at their station, they could immediately pull a red cord and it would stop the production line, completely stop cars from being manufactured. Why? Because it was more efficient to have everyone swarm and figure out what the problem was, solve the problem there, instead of it being passed downstream where it would just get gunked up, and it might pass through and someone might not catch it, and you just have a bad car out in production, and then you have unhappy customers that don't come back.
It's funny that you say that, because it makes me think about the power of the business model canvas, because it is a way to swarm on the problem where everybody understands what a key definition of a key activity, I may not agree, but we can at least swarm and agree that an activity is something that you got to do. And so I would encourage all of you within the sound of my voice to go, if you're thinking about doing a business, to take the time and just map it out. Take 20 minutes, take a half an hour, but just don't go and think it through. Ooh, that rhymed.
Just don't go and think it through. Awesome. I love it. That's a great place to stop. Next week, we'll come in and talk about the Innovation Readiness Level number 2. And we thank you for listening to Ty's ringtone.
Yeah. Oh.
And thank you for listening to this. And we'll see you next week, where we go over Innovation Readiness Level 2.
Level 2.
All the way. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
See you next week.